Local food systems. Food security in a changing climate. What does that mean?
You're just a long-haired hippie. Yep.
What I'm referring to is understanding the area that you are living, its food security, and how it relates to a changing climate. Depending on what science you buy into, whether you're on board with the global warming and the rhetoric that is put out about the human input into the changing weather pattern, or if you've taken the time to do the research for yourself and come up with your own conclusions. I'd like to think that in my observations I may be subject or may not be subject to confirmation bias, and I will always admit to that possibility, but I think it's hard to ignore on-the-ground reports and actual scientific observations of not global warming, but global cooling. At the moment, what I am observing in my area of the world is that this is the coldest snap we've had for a long time, which goes against the much-publicised warming trend. If you take the time to follow other independent reports, you can quickly see enough data-backed reports indicating that the conversation of climate change due to human interaction does not live up to the rhetoric when compared to the actual scientific data. So what impact is this going to have on local food systems and food security? The ability for a community to have local food sources dependent on central distribution agencies could become crucial if there is a massive and continued interruption in commercial quantities of food stocks and the distribution chain. I'm not intending to decry a commercial and convenient way of supplying food to the masses. As with all our content, I am pointing to the role in making your choices that protect your self-sovereignty and your choice of lifestyle. Instead of blindly relying on a commercial and convenient source of produce, by supporting local growers, or better still, growing your own food, enables you to have a local food system with as much chance of food security as you can possibly provide for.
One of the things I've consistently said about gardening and getting it all organised is that you never want to be just working on dogmas of things that are supposed to happen, but obviously they don't work for you. And at the moment, I'm now laying out all my compost on top of the dug garden bed, even though I'm a no-dig gardener. Okay, so see prior videos to that one.
Using organic and sustainable agricultural practices, a local food system can provide real food security to an area. Sustainability of a local food system is always a preferred option than choosing convenience and cheap as a buying decision. The ability of a local food system to have a viable and sustainable role is to encourage local growers by supporting them in whatever way you can. The debate over organic versus local is able to be discussed without any extreme or radical isms. Education around the topic of urban farming Australia and alternative agriculture can be had. The discussions about climate change and food security can be had in context of not only local organic farms near me, but local sustainability farms, local climate change, and local food security. This allows individual ideas to buy into what could be seen as an agenda to fashion dialogues that are biased to actions that have an end result of control and inhibit the ability of an individual to exert their own self-sovereignty and lifestyle choices.
But if you're going to look at just doing something just for the sake of dogma, well then don't bother, because it's not going to work. Like all things, you have to try it out, test it out, see what works. If it doesn't work, modify it, because just like each person, every spot has its individualities on it, all right? But as for no-dig gardening, yeah, look, it really works, we've got plenty of growth happening now around, and I'm really happy with making that decision.
Conditions will always change. It is just the nature of climate and all the influences that act on it that dictate the way it performs, and natural cycles are by far the more powerful influences. Part of the conversation about sustainability is your personal preparedness for these changes. It's not in the consumer's interest to be worried about self-sovereignty and sustainability when the marketing message is all about convenience, cheap, time payments, and keeping up with the Joneses. This is such a stretch of the imagination to remember a culture in where a garden in the backyard was common, a more sustainable and less debt-dependent way of life was normal, and the need for expensive medications to control lifestyle diseases was small. Then, to overlay it on top of the present day, what is now a billion-dollar industry dispensing all manners of medications dealing with high blood pressure, stress, depression, Alzheimer's disease. Would it then be a far stretch to be able to look at the present fast food lifestyles, unconscious convenience shopping and debt-fueled consumerism, where options for local food supply and sustainably grown foods are in very short supply? And then to say, these are a causation or significant contributors to the maladies experienced in our present generation, and a time bomb for future generations as we continue to struggle to deal with what pressures we are experiencing now, let alone what is to come. At the end of the day, you are the consumer. Decision making is in your hands. Take time to practice mindful observation that the information you are making decisions with is based on informed and conscious thought processes. Be wary of manufactured memes brought about by influencers and marketing that do not have you or your family's best interests at heart and are propagated solely for the intent of selfish commercial gain and short-term self-centered motivation.
No-dig organic gardening is one of the best ways that you can reuse all your household compost. You can make sure that you've got a good supply of food for yourself. So it's not that hard. It's when it gets going, it's just like any system, you've got to keep it going, So look, I really encourage you to take on this no-dig method. You don't have to have a garden as big as I have. You can start in a small metre squared area, like just enough to get, something happening for your family. So give it a go, okay? But hey, look, if you like these videos, please, subscribe, follow along, check us out. All right, thanks. See ya.